Reeder was born and raised on the west side of Chicago by a single mom who worked nights for a printing company. He discovered Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, and the other masters of classic science fiction through books she brought home. Over the years, he's written everything from newspaper articles, comic strips, and radio drama to short stories and fan fiction. Two of the original Trekkies, he and his wife Donna, plan to renew their wedding vows with a full Star Trek-themed ceremony. He'll wear an admiral's dress uniform, and she will be decked out in a custom-made leather and lace Klingon wedding dress. He has also got a couple 2 Tree books for sale. Please welcome Steve Bellinger.
When I wear that admiral uniform, it'll be the only time I outrank her. And I have to admit, thanks a lot, I'm going to be self-conscious with every word I read here tonight. I want you to imagine that you're the son of a slave a few years after the Civil War. But you also have a very sharp mind, a genius who would likely have an IQ greater than Einstein or Hawking. You have a dream inspired by a book you found as a child, and you're saving your pennies up to realize that dream. You managed to escape a lynch mob in Mississippi and realize your dream to get an education at the great Negro school in Tuskegee. Now, this is the story of Simi Johnson, who actually gets a PhD in physics. A few years later, he figures out the secret of time travel and even designs a time machine which he calls a Chronocar. That's the title of the novel. But the technology required to build one does not yet exist. So we fast forward 125 years and you find Tony Carpenter, a black IIT student, who finds the plans and builds a Chronocar, and his first trip is to visit Dr. Johnson and his beautiful daughter, Ollie, in the year 1919. They live in Chicago's Black Belt, which is now Bronzeville. But the summer of 1919 is when Chicago experienced its bloodiest race riot. So the sequence I'm going to read is from chapter 1, and in this excerpt, it's the year 1888, and young Simi Johnson is working on a railroad construction crew in Jackson, Mississippi. "Hurry up, Simi," Willie tugged his arm as Simi lifted the heavy hammer to straw boss, who almost toppled out of the wagon from the weight. A minute later, they were standing in line at the pay wagon where old Mr. Sykes distributed the wages. Sykes was a chubby old man who wore thick spectacles and a green eye shade that framed his balding head. "Okay, Willie J.," Sykes adjusted his glasses and licked his thumb. Then he peeled off dollar bills and counted out coins as he read off Willie's pay record, $5.75. "Thank you, sir," Willie bowed, which is a slight gesture since his back naturally bent forward. "Simi Johnson," Sykes said as he flipped through the book. Simi stepped forward. "Here you go, $7.25. "Thank you," Simi said, wondering why he should thank the man for giving him the money he had worked so hard to earn. "Wait," Willie grabbed Simi's arms and glared at Sykes. "Why'd he get more than me?" "You didn't show up for work on Wednesday," Sykes said flatly, "and you left early on Thursday. Lucky I don't fire you." Willie frowned. "White man trying to cheat me," he mumbled as he stepped out of line. "He's not trying to cheat you," Simi sighed. "You've got to work a full day to get a full day's pay." "You bad as him," Willie said, stuffing the money into his pocket. "Come on, let's get something to drink." Simi carefully folded his money, placed it in a tattered envelope, and slipped it into his pocket. "I told you before, I don't drink and I don't carouse around." "No, man, let's go to old Ben's and get a cold pop." Well, Simi saw no harm in that, so they started down the dusty road toward town. Willie talked Black Pete into joining them. Black Pete was a big, dark-skinned man who even had less sense than Willie. Simi walked a few paces ahead of them, lost in thought. The quantity of motion, which is collected by taking the sum of the motions directed towards the same parts, and the difference of those that are directed to contrary parts, suffers no change from the action of bodies amongst themselves. "Hey, Simi." "What?" Simi said, annoyed at the interruption. "How come it is you're so smart?" Willie asked. "What?" You can read, you can do ciphering, you're smart as any white man." Simi stopped and looked at him, maybe smarter. "But why?" Willie said. "Yeah, why?" Black Pete parroted. Simi shrugged. "I guess the good Lord saw fit to bless me with a good mind." "But why?" Willie asked again. "I don't know, ask him." Simi pointed towards the sky as he started walking again. "Don't make no sense," Willie puzzled. "Why would the Lord give them kind of smarts to a colored man?" "What in the hell are you talking about, Willie?" Simi stopped walking again. "You smart, Simi, smarter than all the white men we works for. But what can you do with it?" Simi turned and resumed his pace. "I got plans." He put his hand in his pocket and felt the envelope with the money inside. Just a little more money, he could get away from this place. Then finally he could put his mind to work. No more pretending to be stupid just to stay out of trouble with the white man. What kind of plans, Willie asked. I got plans. Don't you worry about what kind. They're my plans. Hopefully it's God's will that I'll see them through. So you do believe there's a God? Now what kind of question is that, Simi scowled? I'm the one who has to read the scriptures to you every night. Big Mama said you don't believe. Big Mama said you a heathen. A heathen, Black Pete echoed. Big Mama, Simi scoffed. What does she know? She said you study the devil, Willie said softly. The devil, Black Pete whispered. Now why would she say that? Because she found that book under your bed. Simi turned and faced Willie. What book? He asked, knowing full well which book. He only owned two. And what was Big Mama doing going through his things? That Prince book, Willie cringed under Simi's glare. The Principia? She found my Principia? He asked, carefully using the pronunciation that Miss Abigail had taught him 6 years ago. Willie looked around to make sure no one could hear him. She said all the crazy writing and the lines and the circles and the numbers was all the work of the devil. Man, what you been doing? Black Pete cried. Big Mama don't know. What did she do with my book? Simi snatched Willie by the collar. What did she do with my book? She burned it, Willie said meekly. Good thing, Black Pete said. Shut up, Pete, Simi bellowed, and Black Pete cowered away. She burned my book? He imagined his prized possession aflame. One of the most important things he owned, the thing that sparked his dream of starting a new life. He felt a tightening in his gut. He said it was the work of the devil and that it was going to ruin your soul. She burned it to protect you and to keep you and all the rest of us from going to hell. She burned my book, Simi roared as he raised a fist. Don't hit me, I didn't do it, Willie cried. Big Mama did. Simi released Willie and tried to calm himself. His Principia. He had had that book since he was 12 years old when he rescued it from the trash behind the town library. So what if the pages were tattered and the cover was torn off? It was his book. He had begged Miss Abigail, the teacher at the white children's school, to teach him to read just so he could discover what that book was all about. After he breezed his way through all the readers and textbooks that she had, he showed her his Principia. She looked at it and dismissed it as nonsense, which Simi found a bit odd since she had heard of it and even knew the correct pronunciation of the title. It turned out that she had never actually seen a copy before. And young Simi was able to understand it all better than she could. And the knowledge, the wisdom, written 200 years ago by Sir Isaac Newton, a genius of a man. It was as valuable to Simi as his Bible. For over 6 years he coveted that book, and now Big Mama, in her senile ignorance, had destroyed it. Fortunately, Simi had it all memorized. I want to take a couple of seconds to pat myself in the back a little bit. The novel, The Chronocar, was chosen as the 2015 Book of the Month by the Black Science Fiction Society. And, I mentioned that the Tony Carpenter character is an IIT student, well, so was I, class of 1972. And the Chronocar is now in the university's archive. And I do have copies for anyone who, do I have a minute or two?
Yeah, that's great.
Do I have a minute or two? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say that the last time I was here, there was a little bit of hoopla over the fact that I was a science fiction writer. I guess you don't get too many of those around here. And I want to mention that there are a lot of people who enjoyed the Chronocar who claim they don't like science fiction. And I think it's because people don't realize what science fiction is. Well, not my definition, a science fiction story is one where the science, whether real or imaginary, is so central to the story that if you take it out, the story falls apart. Okay? If you take out the time machine, there is no story to the Chronocar. Now this means that Star Wars is not science fiction. In fact, even George Lucas will tell you that. So I invite you to come up and get a copy, and I would love to know what you think. Thank you very much.